Welcome to the lake, ladies and gentlemen. Lake Louise. It is just gorgeous. I've just been out at the ski hill, but I'd like to share the lake with you here. I know this is a very last minute skating event, as was yesterday, but it's all part of the fun. So thank you for joining. I have not put my headphones in because I'd love you to hear the sounds in the lake. What I'm gonna do, I wanna put everyone down on the ground here. You won't be able to hear me that well, personally. I wanna see if you can hear the sounds in the actual lake itself. So I cannot see anyone at the moment, but you keep hearing the sounds of the ice shifting. It is minus 11 or 12 out here, and there's about 80 meters, I think, of water below me right now. So welcome to Lake Louise. It's lovely to have you here. It's really only this time of year that we get to skate on the whole lake because there's just not that much snow. So I was skiing for a couple hours this morning, just doing laps. I always say lapping, going up on the lifts, coming down. But because there's so little snow up at Lake Louise, but the lake is frozen, then I thought it would be fun to bring everyone out here. There is the Victoria Glacier up there, but I am on Treaty 7 territory here, and I'm at a very important junction because that mountain up there, Victoria Peak, is the border with British Columbia, and of course, if I go down into the valley and hang a left, then I can go for about 10 kilometers, I'd be in British Columbia. So that means you had different groups who would come together here. The Blackfoot and Stoney Nakoda, the Cree from the north, and in fact the village of Lake Louise is owned by the Cree First Nation, and then the Cooktaxer, or Kootenai people, would come up from the other side of the valley, and they would trade bison for salmon and ochre. So isn't that fun? Now here, I don't want to take my gloves off too much because it's really cold outside. So there in the distance is of course Chateau Lake Louise, but behind it is the ski area itself, and I was able to ski down the back. Not that much is open, but I was able to do some fun laps up around back there. There is Chateau Lake Louise, and the crane that's up there, they're actually building a whole new spa. So I'm sure it'll be beyond my price range, but it is fun. Now, when we hear the sounds, boom, these big powerful sounds that happen, it's all these cracks that are forming. As Leonard Cohen once said, there's a crack in everything, and that's how the light gets in. But Michelle, very little new snow. This is all kind of hoarfrost up here. So I'm on Lake of the Little Fish, Ni-rum-no-ne, and one of only about 15% of the mountain lakes had fish before contact because they're all moraine lakes off the glaciers. And there's the big glacier up at the back. And that glacier, just in my lifetime, has lost about a third of its volume. But I'm right out in the middle of Lake Louise right now. Now, as opposed to skating yesterday in the howling winds on Gap Lake, it is dead calm here, and it's fantastic. But Mount Fairview over here on the left, I do have a little YouTube video of the viewpoint that's up there. The cracks are really swells in the ice as water, of course, expands when it freezes, which is a really good thing for life on this planet. But on your skates, and as you can see, here's my skates there. You don't ever want to get your skate caught in the crack. Here's one coming up, right? You want to go across it, just perpendicular. But I would say that skating out on just exposed natural ice is a fabulous experience, but it's not probably the best way to learn to skate. You know, yesterday after I left you, here's another one of the cracks I'm about to cross. So you don't want to get your skates caught in it. And my skates have not been sharpened. Up on the ridge, there's actually a mountain hut on the top of that peak up there. And just the other side is beautiful British Columbia. But instead I'm in Albertistan here, where our premier is still advocating for some sort of Alberta sovereignty, which means I'm going to have to push back and express my displeasure in the premier of this province. But that's another conversation away from my TikToks. There's an ice waterfall up to the right, forms every winter, forms differently every winter as well. And people do ice climb up there. I rock climb on those cliffs in the summer, but of course, for the last couple of years, I just haven't been able to climb. I've been so busy. So now that I've been home for 12 whole days, I have been rock climbing in the gym, not outside, every single day. And oh, I love the feeling of that coming together. Now, if I go straight across this lake, if I come straight across this lake, right across is 2 kilometers, almost exactly. 2.2 if you walk around the edge, which you have to when this is full of water. But let's just so I'm still skating out here. Oh, I really do need to sharpen my right skate. Christine and I had dinner in Halifax a few months ago, and it is solidly winter here now. Now over here is a fan formation. It is, yeah, totally frozen. And you have to be very careful. Shouldn't go too close to the edge in the winter because they do have avalanches down there. 3 years ago, a young fellow from my original hometown was swept off the side of the glacier. So the ice is about not quite a meter thick. Maybe 2/3 of a meter, about 2 feet thick. See? And so just a nice little bit of ice out here. Or a little bit of snow, I should say. The ice I trust a lot. What happens is when we finally do get the proper snow, but we're in an El Nino, of course, which is such a shame. But every now and then we're lucky enough in November to have this happen, where everything freezes, but the snow hasn't really fallen, so we get to play in the ice. Oh, here's one of these pretty. Look at this gorgeous formation there. That looks like jellyfish, but of course it isn't. Those are all ice bubbles. That's interesting. This was obviously a bit of a warmer spot down through here. But you come down to the far end, you can hike up the Plain of the Six Glaciers. There's Little Beehive Mountain up there on the right-hand side. And that's where Lake Agnes is, where people go up to the tea house that's open in the summers. And it's not that long. I mean, it's still a fair distance, a few kilometers. But of course, I'm up here right now at about 1,900 meters, about 6,000 feet. You know, so you feel the altitude when you're not used to it. Look at that gorgeous sky. Took a long time for the ice to form this year. Last time I was skiing, so I just finished skiing this morning. I love having days like this. And skiing, hi Merle, shalom. I had a bowl of soup up at the ski hill and I came over here to come for a skate on Lake Louise. Because it's never that obvious how long we'll be able, they always clear a section in front of the chateau, but to be able to skate the full length of the lake is such a pleasure. These are the big cracks that form. So what's happening underneath me here is this ice is actually getting thinner and thinner. Therefore, I'm on thin ice. Lord, it is a perfect day. There's almost never wind up here at Lake Louise because it's so sheltered. But it's minus 11 Celsius. I think that's about 20 Fahrenheit. This is neat because there's probably a little bit of open water over there, but I just thought I could get close enough to show you all the waterfall. Now this is what's significant. If you happen to catch the skating yesterday, where I was out on crazy windy Gap Lake, tomorrow I'm going to pick Finn up after school. His school finishes at 2 on Fridays, and we're going to go play hockey on that lake. But even though it was freezing cold and perfect ice, there was actually some open water, and there is some up here. But that's because, of course, we're all limestone here. And because we're all limestone, it is incredibly porous. So there is water moving through these mountains all the time. And then when they come outside, this morning here was about minus 20. And in fact, those two people, I don't know if you can see them on the edge there, they are either going or have been ice climbing. They have the packs on and the helmets, and people go up here and climb the ice. I have ice climbed, but I would in no way say I'm knowledgeable on it, and I really don't have a lot of the equipment because it's cold and wet and kind of scary. Ice breaks, whereas I have climbed on a lot of these cracks over here in the summertime. But look at the light shifting now. I've come all the way down here. Shall we go see how deep the water is? No. This is all a floodplain. When you see this in the summer, it looks a lot like what you call quicksand, isn't it? It's all just glacial silt that comes pouring out of those glaciers up there. But see the warm water here? That's all flowing out from inside the rock. That's why it's just so interesting to see. Now, I'm just not going to get much closer to that because I don't want to fall in the water. That water is so shallow there that it wouldn't be nice to fall in, but it wouldn't be the end of the world. But I also just want to share with everyone just the sheer beauty of this slightly crystallized snow down here. Isn't it just lovely? Now, it is about 1:40 or something in the afternoon. There's that ice waterfall that we watch every year. Have a look now. The light is starting to shift again in the valley. And now we look way across to Whitehorn Mountain and Lake Louise. So there was nobody on the hill today. I didn't even share a chair or a gondola with anyone. Not that I mind doing so, but that's just how quiet it was. So I am 2 kilometers away from the hotel, the chateau, with all the construction going on. But yeah, this is how good the ice is. And just last Monday, there was still open water. Now there is a little bit. I'm not going to go any closer here. Now, back in the days that we used to do our Hago live tours, I remember walking right across the entire lake on a tour, and I was waist deep in snow. So we're a long way to go yet. But I'm not going to get that much closer at the moment. Now look at the side of Fairview here as well. You'll see all of those little ice waterfalls that are forming up there. Same thing. That's that porous water. We're sitting more or less at the lake here. We're on the second of the 3 faults, the 3 thrust faults that define really all of the front ranges in the Banff area. Although we're not in the front ranges, we're in the interior ranges here. But because I'm west of Castle Mountain. But look at this lake out here. Isn't it just gorgeous, everyone? So I'm still finalizing all sorts of little bits and bobs. The view is fantastic, isn't it? So here I am skating. I don't really overdo it. Now, I'm not nearly as strong a skater as I am a skier anyway. But I don't like to overdo it because of these cracks, as you can see in the ice. And, you go in, it's so easily done to catch something. But these are the days, of course, we're, 2 days away, I guess, from December. So we're on our countdown to the shortest days of the year. So Pam, I know, has been doing some virtual tours of the Spirit of Christmas story. And I'll do a couple. I'll try and drag my kid out, do some Christmas lights trips in Banff. Well, holiday lights. Even for me, my big gloves, if they slipped with my skates, I will tell you a little bit more personal news. I'm going into the city tomorrow because finally they fixed the broken part on my bike. I feel like I've been trapped in my car. I've got the winter studs on, but it was one of the back reels. So I'll have my bike, which means I won't be doing any driving in Banff. I just want to show you this ice. This is why I don't kick too hard out here. Here's a bulge in the ice. And this is where you get this fantastic formation of ice. Because as the ice freezes, it expands, of course. And this is fundamental, right? I've talked about this a lot over the years, but it really matters. When you think of something going from liquid to solid, you think of it shrinking down, from gaseous to liquid to solid. But that is quite different when it comes to water specifically. When the water molecules that are they vibrate so much, when they freeze, they expand out and knot themselves together. That's why ice floats on top of water as opposed to subducting or sinking. But this is so fundamental to life on this planet because underneath me are millions of little fish. And I say little because they never get bigger than about 10 centimeters. But they're small fish, the lake had little fish. But if water were to shrink as it froze, then our planet would have frozen from the bottom of the oceans up and been more than a giant snowball. It would have been a giant ice ball going through space, probably with very little life on it. But indeed, because it sits on top here, the life carries on underneath us. So it is really fundamental, and it's one of the reasons we know it's safe to go out on the ice. So basic rule out here is if you have to step over water to get on the ice, then it's dangerous. But if you can walk straight onto it, So I sat down and put my skates on, which is never a pleasant experience, but I put them on over by the canoe club. Yeah, so that's just what's really important. Is we look at the valley up in front of us, you can see the summit up to the left of the ski area up there. The summit chair was running today, but wasn't open, so they're obviously just getting it prepped up. There's a chance of a bit of snow Saturday or Sunday, but we really, really need, you know, as we approach December, a good meter of snow. We were told that we were going to have an El Nino here this year, and we're having one for sure. So, I mean, the Alberta blue sky obviously couldn't be any more beautiful than it is. And it is our ethereal blue sky we get here, which is just so fantastic. I mean, just enjoy that. I don't think I could paint a blue like that. And fortunately, I can't see the moon from this. So we just passed the Beaver Moon. I was talking about this yesterday. It was so windy. I don't know if you heard me. The Beaver Moon, what they call this moon, each moon has a name for it. And the Beaver Moon, say, I did mention this yesterday, but has, you know, a mixed story. On one side, it's when the beavers really do start to go into their dens and they take in a lot of food to eat for the winter because they don't hibernate, they just hunker down. But also in the fur trade, it was an indicator that it was the time to go trap the beavers. So, you know, that's a pretty sad thing for the beavers for about 200 years. But the Tlingit Nation, every First Nations will have names for the moons. But the Tlingit, the people who are in Juneau and north up the coast towards Haines and Skagway and in what is Alaska now, Alyeska, called it the digging moon. And they said that's when the bears on the coast would start to dig their dens and where animals would dig for remnant berries and things from the summer season. So it's that preparatory moon for the winter. So really rather powerful. Shall we have a little spin around here? There you go. Looking back, the light is coming down from Beehive over there on the right. And there's the glacier. Look at the light. And you'll see there's lots of people out walking on here as well. Now, it's funny, I always have to remind myself. So I was skiing for a couple of hours this morning. And now when I get on my skates, I have to remember not to lean forward. Whereas when you ski, you remind yourself to lean forward. Very important. And, you know, I don't like falling, probably just like the rest of the world. So do watch. I've been promising for a few years now, but I will put on a winter tour. I'm going to aim for next year sometime. I have done dozens of Winter Rockies tours. And half the cost of the tour will be 2 nights in this hotel. But to wake up to that view in the morning is fantastic. Well, it's you know, it's breathtaking and beautiful. There's someone who's quite a good skater out there. You get that real hockey pose where you bend your knees and you're leaning forward. But isn't it gorgeous, everyone? Such a treat to be out here. The chateau, and again, my friend Pam's here and she gives so many stories of it, but it's really part of that second wave of the Grand Canadian Pacific hotels. So the true original one was actually down the hill in Field, but the Banff Springs, of course, is really the granddaddy of them all. And because of its success, then they started building a hotel up here. And it was a small shack. And then they had a Rattenbury hotel in the 1920s, 24, I think, had a fire. But it wasn't winterized till the 1970s. But it's the same time in the 1890s when they built the Chateau Frontenac as well, of course. The hotel in Quebec City, which is said to be the most photographed hotel in the world. It's the only major Canadian Pacific hotel than Fairmont to have not had a fire. So it's the truest to its original design. And I'm looking forward to getting back to Quebec City. I love going to Quebec City in the winter as well. Yeah, so there is this construction going on, which is a bit of a shame. But if you stay at this hotel, there's 2 distinct prices, lake view and non-lake view. And while it looks quite austere on the outside, it was part of a re-siding they did in the 90s. But if you're in those rooms and you're facing out here and you open up the curtains in the morning, well, what happens? Yeah, you come up to that. And if you can time it properly, of course, you get that morning alpine glow, the light on the mountains. So it is pretty magical out here. And then up on Fairview is where we have one of the biggest, most accessible concentrations of the mountain larch, or the tamarack tree. And that's in September. That's the pine tree that changes color. And of course it just erupts with color. But today, so like I said, I'll probably ski twice next week. I skied last week, I skied today, getting the value from my pass and getting my exercise. But, and I'd love it to have more snow, but there's enough snow that when I was coming up the back of the hill today, you have the white that literally just runs right across that ridge of blue sky. And it's not that you don't see that elsewhere in the world, because of course you do. But here in Alberta, because we're so far, like if I went down the hill here and turned left, it would take me 9 hours to drive to Vancouver and the Pacific Ocean. So that's a long way for precipitation to travel to get here. And because I'm up at 1,900 meters or 6,000 feet, then what that means is the humidity's been pulled out of the air. And as a consequence, you get this incredible ethereal blue. Now this is shinny, right? You're playing hockey just out on the ice with no pads. And that's what I intend to do with my kid tomorrow after his school day. Now, I don't want to get too close to the construction just because it's noisy, but I thought I come up to the edge here. This is where, that's interesting. I feel like someone broke through there. They did, they drilled a hole. Oh, that's where you auger. My friends from Michigan know all about that. Go out ice fishing. I'm going to be back in beautiful Michigan in February. I never expect to see so many blue skies, but I love going out and seeing the ice fishing. But this is how you know it's safe to be out here, because you see how the ice is right up against the rocks. And in the summertime, the lake is up to kind of that first step there. So that's how you know it's safe. By the way, look at the frost on the bushes here, just if you're feeling a little bit artistic. So yeah, and some light is going to make it down. I think it might touch a corner of the lake. These are the well, certainly camping, but it's fun to come. I just think, as much as everyone falls in love with the Canadian Rockies, you do need to come back in the winter months and do things in the day, but don't be afraid to go out at night. And sure, it's cold. I mean, like I say, it's -11, which is somewhere around 20 or something Fahrenheit. You see my face is a bit red because I was skiing pretty fast, but no wind here. And you just dress appropriately, and sometimes we have to give each other a hand. I have to take my gloves off to switch the screen around. But it was lovely to share this with all of you. Thank you, everyone, for coming along. Hi to everyone. Just want to go out one more time, kind of where I started, into the middle of the lake here. And you can hear my skates below, but I'd love for you to hear one of the cracks in the lake. And it scares people who don't know what ice is like. But the deep sounds, the boom, is actually the expansion of the ice, not the retraction. So here, I'm going to put you down for a second. Oh, my gimbal's getting a little cold too. So, now I won't be able to see what you're saying for a minute. And I don't have headphones in. So here, I'll just skate around. I'm in my ski gear rather than skating gear. If you don't watch where you're going, it can be a big fight. So, big hugs to everyone. Lots of love. And it's fun to go back to memories of this part of the world.